A few months ago, my daughter had what we thought was a tummy ache, and that's what we were treating for the whole weekend. When we got to the doctor, who then referred us to the hospital, we realized in a few hours that it was appendicitis, and it was not only swollen, but her appendix had already ruptured. What would follow would be lots and lots of crying, lots and lots of pain, because not only was she already in a lot of pain, everything about the process to make her feel better included more pain. And there were many occasions where I had to hold her down as they added IV drips or taking bloods or a lot of things, including a pipe that was in her nose after surgery, which made her very uncomfortable and she kept wanting to pull it out. I had to hold her down as the nurses were wrapping her hands with bandages so she couldn't pull out that pipe. And she was screaming. I remember the look of betrayal in her eyes when she looked at me as I was holding her down for what seemed like the 20th time, as she was in pain, as pain was being inflicted on her. And the look in her eyes just said, I don't understand why you are doing this to me. There are many times I had to leave the room and just cry because it felt a bit too much. But I had to go back and it had to be done because I knew that was the pathway to healing. That if I didn't hold her down for the IV drips and all the things, she couldn't have the surgery. And if she didn't have the surgery, she could die. I knew afterwards that if she didn't keep the pipe in her nose, they'd said there'd be infections, so they're pumping stuff out, and that could cause complications, which could lead to death. So, even though it was painful then, I still held her down because the pain she was feeling then, even though it was bad, had to happen for her to heal. And in those 7 days, I understood something about God that I'd understood intellectually, but at those 7 days, I experienced it. I experienced what it is to allow, sometimes even you're the one inflicting pain on someone that you love, letting them suffer, understanding that they need to suffer this thing temporarily for a bigger purpose or relief. All of a sudden, it put into context something about human suffering that I'd accepted, but I didn't fully understand. Like, if I, a mere mortal and a very sinful human being, can have enough love for another person to hold them down and inflict pain that will actually save their lives, how much more God? In those moments, I knew the bigger picture in relation to that surgery needing to happen. So I let them prick her, and I had to. So if God understands the bigger picture of our lives and eternity, there are things that will happen that we actually don't understand, and it will feel painful. And we'll feel betrayed because it seems like He's the one that's doing it to us. But in that week, I understood that sometimes He has to let that happen for the bigger picture. And the same way, my daughter, even though she was upset with me, she still knew Mama somehow had her best interests. And she said at the end of the 7 days that she forgave me. Because had to apologize to her. And I think the biggest gift also just my kids have given me is they've allowed me to understand a lot of things about God that were hard for me to understand, or even if I Sometimes some things I accepted, but I didn't fully understand, and they've given me that perspective just in our relationship as a parent to a child. Like that moment, there's many other moments that I now understand that as a child of God, how He relates to me, I see it in how I sometimes relate to my kids. And I think it's not by mistake that God uses familial terms, like He uses the idea of family as a way of helping us understand Him, who He is, and His relationship with us and to us. That week was tough, but that week was very eye opening in my understanding of some of the suffering that I might go through. And I've been fortunate that some of the suffering that I've gone through, I've lived long enough to understand it, like, and be grateful for it. But there's still other things that I still don't understand. But if I trust my parent, then I can rest knowing that it's for my good.